Good morning. I am Corey Ness, she, her pronouns, and I serve as the Director of Lifespan Faith Development here at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. I look forward to sharing leadership of today's service with Reverend Bran Lennox. We are glad you are choosing to join us today for this virtual service while our sanctuary continues to undergo renovations. Whoever you are and wherever you live, whomever you love and whatever you do for a living, you are welcome at the Unitarian Church of Harrisburg. We invite you to join us for coffee hour following this morning's service right here on Zoom. I invite you to take this moment to hold our space here as sacred by remaining muted throughout the service and preparing yourself to be present online or in person, we're grateful for this time together. We will now sing our opening hymn, The Lone Wild Bird, led by Reverend Bran and accompanied by pianist Brett Carson.
Lone wild bird in lofty flight is still with thee, nor leaves thy sight. And I am thine, I rest in thee, great Spirit, come and rest in me. The ends of earth are in thy hand, the oceans deep and far off lands, and I am thine, I rest in thee, great Spirit, come and rest in me.
We have chosen to bring ourselves here to this virtual sanctuary to gather as a community of faith. We are joined together in solidarity as a covenanted people who are drawn together once more by the promise of connection and the mysterious pull of the unanswerable. As seekers, wanderers, appreciators of nature, and creators of connection, our paths have converged today so that we might become present to the spirit that is worship. And so let us worship together. Each week, it is our tradition to light a chalice which casts a circle of light to hold us all. Wherever you are joining us from, this circle is wide enough to hold you. As we create anew the symbol of our shared faith, I'd invite you to post some words of greeting in the chat and let us know where you are joining from today. Let's reflect on these chalice lighting words by Richard S. Gilbert. Enough, I say, of big things and great things, and extraordinary things and ultimate things. I celebrate the ordinary. I lift my voice in praise.
When we gather in community, it's important to remind ourselves and each other of why we are here and what we've agreed to try together. Here at UCH, we've decided our goals are to encourage each other, to equip each other with what we need to succeed, and to empower each other to do good things. We renew this promise by reading our covenant together. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and service is our gift. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Let's take this time to enjoy the blessings of music. This anthem, Peace Prayer Mandala, blends together words of prayer from many of the world's major religious traditions. It was recorded by the UCH Virtual Choir and edited by our music director, Yvonne Duvall. As you take in this music, Allow yourself to appreciate the familiar and the unfamiliar in what you hear.
Om Mani Padme Hum, 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 Om Mani Padme
Today's story is titled A Fable with Slips of White Paper Spilling from the Pockets by Kevin Brockmeyer. I have to say, I really love this story and the message it shares with us. I give thanks to Reverend Bran for sharing it with me. So once there was a man who happened to buy God's overcoat. He was rummaging through a thrift store when he found it. The sleeves were a little too long and a button was cracked, but the coat fit him well, lending him a regal look. The man took it to the register and paid for it. As he was walking home, he discovered a slip of paper in one of the pockets. Was it an old receipt, he thought, or maybe a to-do list forgotten by the coat's previous owner? But when he took it out, he found a curious note typed across the front. Please help me figure out what to do about Albert. The man wondered who had written the note and whether that person had figured out what to do about Albert, but not for very long. After he got home, he folded the slip of paper and dropped it in a ceramic dish by the door. Later, he discovered two more slips of paper in the coat's pocket while he was on his way to the office the next morning. One read, "Don't let my nerves get the better of me this afternoon." And the other, "I'm asking you with all humility to keep that boy away from my daughter." When the man reached his office, he closed his office door and went through the coat pocket by pocket. It had 5 pockets. He rooted through each of the pockets until he was sure that they were completely empty, finding 7 more slips of paper. The messages typed across the front of the slips all seemed to be wishes or requests of one sort or another. Please let my mom know I love her. I'll never touch another cigarette as long as I live if you'll just make that lump go away. Give me back the joy I used to know. There was a tone of quiet intimacy to the notes, an open-hearted pleading that seemed familiar to the man. Prayers, he realized. That's what they were, prayers. But where on earth did they come from? He was lining them up on the edge of his desk when a coworker rapped on his door to remind him about a meeting. As soon as the coworker left, the man felt another slip of paper that read, "The only thing I'm asking is that you give my cat another few years." The cat was his coworker's. Was this a coincidence? Somehow he didn't think so. For the rest of the day, the man kept the coat close. By the time he locked his office for the night, he believed he had come to understand how it worked. The coat was, or seemed to be, a collection for prayers. He discovered that throughout the day, when he passed somebody on the street or stepped into a crowded room, he would tuck his hand into the coat's pockets and feel a slip of paper brushing his fingers. In a meeting with one of his interns, he discovered a note that read, "Please, oh please, keep me from embarrassing myself." He grazed the arm of a man who was muttering, and a few seconds later found a note that read, "Why do you do it? Why can't you stop harassing me?" In the prayers that followed, he found thousands upon thousands more prayers for comfort and prayers for money to pay bills, prayers for love and good fortune. Some of them were praying for things he could understand and others that he could not understand. Soon the man realized that he was able to detect the pressure of an incoming prayer before it even arrived. The space around him would take on a certain feeling, and that someone was offering their yearnings up to the air. This sensation was unmistakable. There were so many prayers. There was so much longing in the world, and in the face of it all began to feel helpless. One night, the man had a dream where he recognized God. "You," the man said, "what are you doing here? I have your coat. Don't you want it back?" "It's yours now. They're all yours. I don't want the responsibility anymore." "But don't you understand?" The man said to him. "We need you down here. How could you just abandon us?" And God answered, "I came to understand the limitations of my character." The next day, the man decided to place an ad in the classified pages. Purchased at thrift store, one overcoat, possibly of sentimental value. Wish to return to the original owner. He allowed the ad to run for a full 2 weeks, but he did not receive an answer. The coat belonged to him now. The coat had changed him into someone he had never expected to be. He found it hard to imagine turning back to the life he used to know, a life in which he saw people everywhere he went, in which he looked into their faces and even spoke to them, but was only able to guess at what lay in their souls. One day, the man was walking down a set of steps towards the center of the town square when he discovered a prayer that read, "Let someone speak to me this time, anyone at all, or else." The prayer was a powerful one. It appeared to be coming from a woman sitting down next to a fountain. The man sat down beside her and asked, "Or else what?" She did not seem surprised to hear him ask the question. "Or else," she said quietly. He could tell by her voice that she was about to cry. "Or else." He took her by the hand. "Come on, why don't I buy you some coffee?" He led her to the coffee house, hanging his coat over the back of a chair, and listened to her talk. And before long, he had little question what the "or else" was. She seemed so sad and isolated. He insisted that she spend the rest of the afternoon with him. He took her to a small art gallery and then an antique store. A movie was playing at the Bargain Theater, a comedy, and he bought a pair of tickets for it. After it was finished, the two of them ate dinner at a Chinese restaurant. By then, the sun was falling, and the woman was in better spirits. He made her promise to call him the next time she needed someone to talk to. "I will," she said. It was the next morning before he realized his overcoat was missing. He went to the lost and found counter and was told that no one had turned it in. He remembered draping the coat over his chair at the coffee house, but none of the baristas had seen it. The man searched for it in every shop in town, but without success. That evening, as he unlocked the door of his house, he knew that the coat had fallen out of his hands for good. It was already plain to him how much he was going to miss it. Eventually, he was left with only a small ache in the back of his mind and a lingering sensitivity to the currents of hope and longing that flowed through the air. Now, at Prang Lin's Chinese restaurant, a new sign soon appeared on the window. Custom fortune cookies made nightly and on the premises. The diners at the restaurant found the fortune cookies brittle and tasteless, but the messages inside were unlike any that they had ever seen. And before long, they developed a reputation for their uniqueness and their curious wisdom. Crack open one of the cookies at Pang Lin's, it was said, and you never knew what fortune you might find inside. Please let the test be canceled. I could really use a friend. Why would you do something like this to me? Why? Oh, make me happy.
Thank you, Corey, for that beautiful sharing of one of my favorite stories. Let's join together now in the spirit of prayer, opening our hearts and minds to these words offered by author Khalil Gibran. You pray in your distress and in your need. Would that you might pray also in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summons you to prayer, she should spur you again and yet again, though weeping, until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air with those who are praying at that very hour and whom, save in prayer, you may not meet. Therefore, let your visit to that temple invisible be for naught but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the temple for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you should enter into it to humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even if you should enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. Let us enter into sacred space with all that we are now, with open minds, open hearts, with our weeping and our laughter. And let us embrace a moment of silence together now. Now is the time when we engage as a community in the sharing of our joys and sorrows, our concerns and our milestones. When we join together to hold each other in support and in celebration, we deepen our sense of interrelationship. We may find our sorrows eased and our joys magnified. I invite you to share them now. Please remain muted and type your joys and sorrows into the chat box, and we will hold you in love as I read our joys and sorrows aloud. Shared or unshared, our hearts join with yours in carrying all that life brings. To begin, I will share a message from Jim and Nan Kavanaugh. They share joy. Nan's physical therapy has helped her recover from her May 31st accident. She's out and about, and the pain is gone as the swelling continues to subside. And also a sorrow. Jim fell last Tuesday. He says, "That's our third, we are done," and hurt his left knee, which now sports a brace. Probably no broken bones, but the follow-up appointment will confirm. Meanwhile, lots of taking it easy. Our wishes for swift healing are with you, Jim, and we celebrate with you, Nan. From Sarah Hopkins, asking for lots of healing thoughts for my surgery Tuesday for recently discovered breast cancer. Our hearts go out with you, Sarah. Kate shares, every one of our Zoom services has been amazing thanks to our worship and tech teams. Yes, I share that gratitude, Kate. Thank you. I will give us the space of a few more breaths for anybody who's taking your time typing what's on your heart. Hannah Belser shares, we have returned from a joyful choral trip to England, full of joy and gratitude, and a bit tired. Congratulations on your successful journeys, Hannah. Abena Walker shares, I'm visiting with my 88-year-old mother. Nancy Hall shares, Gaza and our country. Chuck, Barone, Shares, Anne, and J.D. Stillwater came to visit us in Ingonish, Nova Scotia, and had a great visit. I hope my pronunciations were correct, but I'm celebrating with you, Chuck, and also with Anne and J.D. for that wonderful time of connection.
It's Ingonish.
Ingonish, thank you. For all that has been shared and those many concerns we hold deep in our hearts and yet remain unspoken, we journey with each other in love. And as I transition into my sermon, feel free to continue posting things for each other in the chat as they come to you. Like many other kids from Catholic families, I was instructed in the habit of prayer from a very young age. Every night before going to bed, my brother and I knelt down and said the same prayer. God bless mommy and daddy, and then it went on to list approximately 30 other members of the family, ending with, and the whole world, amen. Over time, new categories were added, special God bless and extra special God bless for family members who were ailing or had recently died. And eventually, a tagline was added in to asking God to prevent my brother and me from getting lead poisoning from the tap water. As I got older, I went through the various Catholic sacraments and learned the staple prayers, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, etc. While all of this was by some definition praying, it didn't create the same connection that I consider characteristic of prayer today. The first memories I have of praying voluntarily, meaningfully, were of singing a children's setting of the 23rd Psalm every time I had to go in the basement. I felt the powerful, irrational fear that children have upon descending into a shadowy space, and the only way I could keep myself feeling calm and protected was by singing to God. It wasn't very many years after that before life started instilling doubts about Catholicism in me, and I took a path away from Christianity in general. My relationship to the divine has changed so radically since childhood, and yet there's something that still returns sometimes. In the very worst moments, when I'm filled with fear and I feel like I have nothing left, I still find myself on the floor, talking to the God of my upbringing. It makes me feel a little mixed up and torn when I find myself praying to that old Father God. I'm not sure he deserves my attention, and I don't really like what it means that deep pain is what connects me to him. But there's also a kind of beauty to those prayers of despair, and I cherish them in their own way. They give me a safe container through which I can observe one extreme of human emotion. When I have no choice but to give up that illusion of control and admit that it's not up to me what happens next, there's a form of growth that happens there. That cry of, oh God, help me, is a common one, especially in our Christian-influenced culture. If asked to define prayer, people of all ages will often give the answer that it's asking God or a higher power for help. All the experiences of prayer I've described above certainly fit that definition, but that is actually a specific form of prayer called intercession. Asking for help or healing or protection all fall under the category of intercessions. This form of prayer has its uses. It enables us to calm ourselves in times of distress, and it can also be helpful in relinquishing our death grip on attempting to control things. Intercession as a practice does have a stickier side, though, which is the widely criticized sending thoughts and prayers response to tragedy. Context is key here. This phrase can be comforting in the right moment, but too often it's offered in the place of real action. When we leave our response to real human suffering at thoughts and prayers, we're abandoning our own necessary work to the hypothetical power of God. When prayer is a form of bypassing, it actually separates us from our relationship to the divine. To fully experience the purpose of prayer, we need to look deeper, beyond just intercession. I find that the more I explore, forms of prayer surface everywhere. A common one is the prayer of gratitude. Again, a useful practice. There's plenty of research to be found about gratitude as a key component to emotional resilience. Someone recently asked me how it's possible to have a gratitude practice as an agnostic or an atheist. They shared that to them it feels weird because they didn't have a sense of who they were saying thank you to. I'd posit that regardless of our views about a higher power in the world, gratitude practice helps us remember that there are good things in our lives that we cannot take personal credit for. Many of these ways of praying tend to be characterized by words, thinking, speaking, or writing our prayers. So could we say that prayer is a conversation with the divine? I mean, some do, but I think that that's also too limiting. The story that Corey told earlier in the service was a slightly abridged version of that piece of short fiction by Kevin Brockmeyer. I loved this story the first time I heard it, and it continues to hold a lot of meaning for me, both as a human being and a minister. In the original story, at one point, the man who has inherited God's overcoat goes to a play in a theater and finds a note in his pocket which contains every line that one of the actors spoke on stage. And at this point in the story, I always have to pause and wipe tears from my eyes because it strikes at something very profound. I have absolutely performed choreography and prayed with my body. I have heard cello pieces which were prayers, and seen paintings and walked through buildings whose architecture was a prayer. This understanding brings me closer to the challenging task of finding a comprehensive definition of prayer. Now, Unitarian Universalists often conflate meditation with prayer, and I think we do that in part so that those of us with religious wounding might feel more comfortable being present here. But I do think that's a mistake, because we are selling both prayer and meditation short by conflating them. Meditation is its own complex, meaningful practice. It is prayer related, and it might be the vehicle for an individual's prayer practice, but it's not exactly the same thing. To boil each down to one core word, meditation is a practice of awareness, and prayer is a practice of connection. Beyond that, they both go up there with gender identity and being in love on that shelf labeled, you know it when you feel it. Sometimes the strongest form of prayer is to be in nature and find ourselves fully present, communicating with the wonders around us. The forest, the desert, and the ocean sometimes seem to pull prayers right out of us. There's a different feeling to praying in nature versus in a sacred building, and there's a different feeling to praying alone versus in community. Many of us have preferences about these conditions, but each of them can be found profound in its own way and time. Now, I'm not going to sit here and list a survey of worldwide prayer practices. In order for that to have any meaning, we would have to take quite a few hours to study the roots and contexts of them all. But if we were to embark in that study together, one thing we would find is that all over the world, from today back to ancient times, people have prayed. Along with music, dance, visual arts, and love, it seems common to nearly all of human experience. What is it about us that gives us this instinct to pray? Many people dear to my heart who identify as some form of non-believer would prefer to deny the impulse to prayer, and yet upon exploring the idea more closely can only admit that at some point in their life, They have been moved to do so. I believe the prayer instinct belies an inescapable understanding of a mysterious truth that we have a connection. We are connected to each other and to the world and to something greater than ourselves. And to me, prayer is the act of reaching for that connection, observing it, interacting with it, and letting it fill my awareness. Perhaps I am reaching for that connection to ask for help, set an intention, express wonder and thanks, or even just be in its presence. And when I started engaging with this practice intentionally, I felt embarrassed at first. It is not particularly cool for someone in my social location to pray. But openness is important to me, and eventually I could not deny my beautiful relationship to prayer. I pray for the right words every time I write a sermon. I pray to be a needed presence when I do pastoral care. I pray when I'm tired or worried, and I pray when I'm filled with joy. Despite my lack of identification with Christianity at this point in my life, my favorite written prayer still comes out of that tradition. It's a slightly adjusted version of the prayer of St. Francis. O divine Spirit, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. I discover something new every time I revisit this prayer, but the most important thing comes back to that feeling of connection to something beyond myself. When I read this prayer, when I speak this prayer, I feel as though a wholeness is available to me in spite of it all. May we engage in curiosity and playfulness as we explore our own many connections to prayer. May we have gentleness with ourselves and gravitate towards practices which give us a sense of wholeness. May we approach this and all other relationships with the balance of intentionality and flexibility. May we never be ashamed to bring along that which serves us and let go of the rest. And may the gifts of this exploration give us new energy for creating justice and compassion in this world. May it be so, and amen.
The Unitarian Church of Harrisburg is, as always, an intentionally gathered congregation of freely thinking, loving people. The church is created, sustained, and supported by us. For the month of August, we are sharing with UU Justice PA, which is an advocacy group that promotes UU values across the state and promotes related educational initiatives around the state. If you wish to contribute online, visit uchbg.org and scroll to the bottom of the page for options. Your financial support and commitment matter. Please consider giving what you are able.
We dedicate these gifts to the work of this congregation, weaving a tapestry of compassion and action, faith and fellowship, hope and wholeness.
So today's reading is from the Unitarian Universalist Views of Prayer by Reverend Erica Hewitt. Prayer is one word for the alignment of our full attention with our desire to connect with that which is larger than us. It can take many forms, from the quiet cultivation of stillness to the deliberate naming of all that we're grateful for, which Reverend Tom Shade calls naming the goodness. Whatever its form, Prayer also creates an internal shift, as renowned theologian Reinhold Niebuhr noted. Prayer does not change things. Prayer changes people, and people change things. Prayer is not hearing voices. Prayer is acquiring a voice. Now, when it comes to prayer and meditation, how it works is less important than its practice. Practice is a way to connect and reconnect to ourselves and to that which is life giving. The mechanics don't matter as much as the intention. Remembering ourselves as magnificent, fragile vessels of love, sometimes with intimates and sometimes with strangers, and affirming our choice to remain connected so that we're not lost in the vastness of space and time. Now let us sing together one more time. This is Wake Now My Senses, and you can follow along with the lyrics displayed on the screen.
What a blessing to revisit that day and to see that sanctuary the familiar way one more time. If all goes as anticipated, we will see it in a whole new light just a week from today. I offer these benediction words from Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. If I really wanted to pray, I'll tell you what I'd do. I'd go out into a great big field all alone or up in the deep, deep woods, and I'd look up into the sky, up into that lovely blue sky that looks as if there is no end to its blueness. And then I'd just feel a prayer.